I'm Idiotech, and I'm not going to review Ark Survival Evolved today. I planned to. I wanted to give you an unbiased appraisal of the situation here, but it just is not a playable game, guys, and there are so many things wrong with it right now. This is more of a PSA and a rant than it is a review, so I'm titling it a failed review. You know what it is going in. I hope you get something out of it. Enjoy. This game is a mess, okay? It's a complete mess. Anyone who's telling you on Steam that this is a good game and you should back it and ignore the negative comments about frame rate, etc., is just, I don't know what's wrong with that kind of a person, to be honest. There's absolutely no reason for any human being at all to buy this game right now. So I'm going to run through some of the issues. Number one, I start up the game for the first time, I try and log into servers, can't do it. Spend about an hour sitting there waiting to log into the servers, can't do it. Eventually, the developers release a patch and add single player to the game. I go, okay, fine, I'll try out the single player. So I load into the game, there's a character creator that comes up first. I'm like, oh, cool, character creation, that's interesting. I start playing with the sliders, I quickly realize, nope, this is awful. They've spent literally 5 seconds on this. You can make some of the most horrific looking models I've ever seen in a video game. There's no hairstyles, there's no customization, okay? You can just increase and decrease several sizes of body parts. That's literally all there is. It's stupid, pointless. You may as well not even have it, in my opinion. But anyway, that's very bare bones, okay? Finally, I get into the game, and I'm greeted with 10 frames per second on an R9 290 and a 4790K. That's not acceptable. I was running, and in the graphics options, it tells you, like when you hover over the different settings, it tells you what's suitable for which kinds of graphics cards, okay? So I set my stuff to high because that's what it recommended for my graphics card, or the equivalent graphics card from Nvidia. I jump into the game and I'm getting 10 frames per second. I'm like, okay, this is awful. So I drop it down to low and I'm getting 25. When you look at the ground in this game, or the sky, this is a trick, by the way. If you don't know this, if you want to know if a game is running poorly because it's just too graphically intense and your graphics card isn't particularly powerful enough, right? It's not a foolproof solution, but it works most of the time, okay? Look at the ground, straight at the ground, because if you look at the ground, everything else in the environment is culled out, right? And is not being rendered, and therefore you're just rendering that tiny piece of floor texture. Now, if you're getting 60 frames per second when doing that, most likely your hardware isn't powerful enough, okay? Now, if you do that and you see no performance increase, it means it's horribly optimized. Same thing if you look at the sky, okay? When you've got huge amounts of detail and textures and models and stuff on the screen, you'd expect performance to go down. When you look at the floor, you'd expect it to improve. In this game, it doesn't, which shows that it's clearly an optimization issue. First things first, the game runs like absolute balls, okay? You're gonna get, I mean, I'm running a relatively high-end system. Sure, it's not a Titan-based system, but it's relatively high-end. And it's barely playable for me, okay? I have to play it on low to medium and then still have things on low. And even the developer themselves said with a 970, they had to play it on medium with some settings set to low. It is horrifically optimized. Number one, you are going to have a terrible play experience. Number two, the servers don't work, as I've already said. I got one game in 8 hours on a server with other people, and I was kicked after 10 minutes and then couldn't log back in. So that was my online play experience. So it's not, the online functionality does not work at all right now. The one positive about the game is the visuals. It's a beautiful looking game, but I suspect that is mostly to do with the engine they're using and not so much to do with the actual work from the developers, because the developers have only been working on this game for 8 months. Now, as someone who's made video games, 8 months for a game like this is shocking. It took me 8 months to make a very small indie game. Like, we're talking very basic here, simple gameplay loops, no crazy visuals, no crazy mechanics, nothing like that, no multiplayer, right? It took me 8 months to do that with another person, okay? They may have a bigger team than me, but 8 months is a ludicrous amount of time to produce anything other than a prototype, okay? Like a pre-alpha build of an idea. It's nowhere near enough time. And this is clearly shown in the number of amateurish mistakes that the people are making. So, the performance issues, right? They're saying on the forums, okay, well, the game's going to be fixed in a week. We're going to fix the performance issues in a week. We're going to work every day until the end of the week, and we should have everything resolved, and you should have a much better experience. Well, if that's the case, then why didn't you do that before the game came out? Why didn't you reschedule the release 2 weeks and increase and improve your performance? It's not true, okay? They're scrambling and panicking because there are thousands of negative reviews on Steam, and they're now, okay, we better fix performance then. I guess it's not acceptable to ship a game with 10 FPS. Any developer worth their salt knows that shipping a game, even in early access, in that state, which is practically unplayable, for anyone lower than me in terms of hardware, I can't imagine what the experience is like. It's not acceptable at all, no matter the state of the game, whether it's an alpha, whether it's a beta, whether it's like a prototype, it's not acceptable. It's clear that the developers have no idea what they're doing when it comes to making games. This is backed up by the fact that the user interface is a complete hodgepodgey mess. When you go into your inventory, it looks relatively clean and thought out and well done, but then there are elements on the screen like this huge bright red text and huge bright green text with really terrible icons that make you wonder, okay, why is there so much inconsistency here? Like, this aspect of the game looks really good, but this aspect of the game looks terrible. And the reason for that is because a lot of the game is made using assets from the Unreal Engine demo, okay? There's a first-person shooter demo in the Unreal Engine that this is clearly based on, and I know that for a fact because when you look at the game files, or in my case, I was recording in Fraps, and this is what clued me into this. And when you record in Fraps a game in the Unreal Engine and it says shooter game as the file name, you know that that's based on the demo files that come with Unreal Engine. And so things like the you've taken damage red effect around the edge of the screen, that's from the demo, where you're taking damage from, etc., that's from the demo, the movement system, animations, all that stuff's taken from the base demo. And then on top of that, they've bought a whole bunch of assets from the marketplace, okay? We're talking tree textures, rock textures, fire, like all these different things, wood, all the wooden structures in the game, things like that, okay? They've all been purchased from the marketplace, the Unreal Engine marketplace. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem per se with people using assets from a marketplace, right? But what it does tell me is that they haven't made all this content themselves, okay? And so it might not look as good as it does because of the work of the developers, and especially in an 8-month time frame, to turn around something that looks this good is practically impossible. Anyway, that being said, it's quite clear the developers don't really know what they're doing again because they keep patching the game every 5 seconds. And you may think, well, that's good. They're responding to the customer feedback. Well, yes and no, because if you're playing a game on a server and then it gets patched and then you have to wait for the server to get patched to be able to get back on the server for those who are actually able to play, that becomes a pretty serious issue, and everyone running private servers has to constantly update their servers every 10 minutes. So that's not really acceptable. And also, in development, it's better to just say, okay, we've got some problems. You say to people on the forums, look, we're working on a patch. These are the things we're addressing in the patch. The patch will be out at this time. Thank you, right, for your patience. Instead of just spamming people with patches. It's a very amateurish thing to do, because what you can do when you do that is you can introduce new bugs, and we saw that on the forums. They'd patch something in and now loading screens weren't working anymore and people couldn't actually get into the game, or they'd patch something else in and then servers were crashing, etc., etc. You don't do this in development, okay? You implement the fixes, then you QA that build, and then you ship it out, okay? They're not doing that. They're just patching stuff. They're just fixing stuff, going, oh yeah, that kind of works, and then just shipping it out and hoping that it doesn't, you know, corrupt people's files. For example, they wiped everyone's progress yesterday because of a screw up they did. And that's what happens when you don't correctly patch, like make a build, right? You make a build and then you test the build, you make sure everything's working, and then you ship it out. They're not doing that. They're just rushing out patches. So again, another aspect of their amateurish behavior, right? I mean, they couldn't even be bothered to rename it, okay? That's the degree of amateurish we're talking about here. There's no pride taken in this work. It is a cobbled together game from Unity assets, demo assets, and then obviously stuff they've created themselves, right? With some pretty rudimentary mechanics, if I'm honest. I think people's standards when it comes to survival games in this genre are pretty low. I mean, it's you pick stuff up, you hit stuff, but you can't pick stuff up and hit stuff simultaneously. So if I want to bash down a tree with an axe, I can't also then pick up berries. I have to put my axe away so I can use my hands. Stuff like that. It's just not well designed. The user interface is clumsy. The leveling up system is arbitrary. You just walk around the world, kill things, and pick up rocks, and you earn XP. And then because you earn XP, you learn schematics and stuff. It's very prototype, okay? Like, it's an incredibly prototypey experience. That being said, there's even more problems, okay? So in terms of the gameplay, as I was saying, it's no better than any other survival game. Yes, you can tame dinosaurs and ride dinosaurs. That's going to get old after a while, and when you consider all the other problems, it's not worth it, okay? Even for that feature, which is really cool, it's not worth it. The game balance is all over the place. I mean, we're talking like turtles that are level 3, right, can completely wreck you, but some other thing that's like level 12, you can just kill very, very easily, okay? There's very little game balance at all. The fact that monsters even have levels is ridiculous. I mean, I saw like a high level, like, little creature, like, kill a T-Rex. I mean, it's very poorly balanced, okay? In terms of game design, in terms of balance, etc., etc. I mean, in order to drink, you walk into the ocean. I mean, drinking seawater is like the last thing you do in a survival situation. It's just very, very prototype, okay? It's very much a prototype. It's not even an alpha. Another area of concern I have is that there were so many streamers and YouTubers. I'm not going to name names, but there were some big YouTubers, okay? Like big YouTubers and some big streamers streaming this game and playing this game and acting like it was a great experience and they were having a really fun time. But how could they honestly not point out the faults in this game? It's packed with issues, performance issues, balance issues, server issues, etc., etc., and they didn't mention any of them. I was honestly a little shocked to see some people who I respect just putting footage out there and being like, oh yeah, this is a great experience, guys, you can pick it up for this much, la 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 la. I even saw someone on a podcast I watch who was trying to downplay some of the concerns that people had. That's not alright, and it's clear, to me at least, that people have been paid to promote this game, okay? Like, they've paid YouTube influencers and Twitch streaming influencers to promote this game before it comes out, and then people just rush out to buy it based on the hype, and then get obviously disappointed, right? Thank God there's a refund system in place now. I covered that yesterday. So, that's another area of concern. You know, and honestly, don't be surprised if this game is never finished, like every other survival game in early access. I don't think a single game has come out of early access yet that's a survival game. And there are a lot of games in there that are actually good. Rust is a relatively good experience, for example. DayZ, depending on how much you can deal with the terrible controls and stuff in that game, that's a relatively developed game. There's a lot of options available to you. H1Z1, there's a lot of options available to you on Steam, on early access, that are more fleshed out, perform better, the servers work, the mechanics are more interesting than this game. Now, that all being said, with another 6 months in the oven, and it should have had that by default, this game should not have come out, even in early access. It's not remotely close to an alpha state. Even then, this game, it could be good. It could. It has the potential to be good. It's a good idea, it's a good concept. I would love to see it fleshed out. If done by a studio that knew what they were doing, I would love to have this experience. Okay, and that brings me on to another thing, just one more thing. The trailer for this game is highly misrepresentative of what a person is actually going to experience. There was no gameplay footage put out other than the trailer, and the trailer states that it's gameplay footage. Well, that's running at a smooth 60 FPS. It looks beautiful. There's people all over the screen, there's caves, there's maps, there's crazy environments, dinosaurs everywhere, and it's running seamlessly. That has to be pre-rendered because there is not a single person out there who can run this game at a reasonable frame rate. There are people on the forums with Titan X's who can't get more than 25 FPS in this game. And we're talking on low to medium settings. That trailer is at ultra settings. I don't know how they were even able to create that trailer without pre-rendering it, to be honest. So that's another area of misrepresentation and false advertising. So anyway, I'll stop ranting now, but I just want you to all be aware that games like this, number one, you should not buy into them. Okay, like when a game comes out in early access like this, you should wait at the very least. If you're not there purely to be a beta tester and support developers and to pay them money for the privilege to help them, if that's not your attitude when it comes to early access games and you just want to play cool, unique games that maybe don't have all their features in yet or maybe have some issues here and there, in future, do not buy games on day one. Do not buy games because streamers are playing them or because YouTubers are playing them, because you're just going to get screwed most of the time, okay? Thankfully, there's a refund system now, so you do have some recourse, but still, in my opinion, this game has the potential to be a good game with another 6 months to a year in the oven, and that is before it even becomes an alpha. Okay, or a beta. Let's say a beta, to be fair, okay? Give it another year, like behind closed doors, then bring it out as a beta, let people play it, test your server functionality, tweak your game balance, add features here and there, and then release it as a proper game, okay? In its current state, it's barely playable, the servers don't work, it's an amateurish mess. Avoid at all costs. that was my rant slash not review of Ark Survival Evolved. Now, I wouldn't normally ask this, guys, but considering how awful this game is and that there are so many people still buying it on Steam, please share this around. I don't care if you embed it. If you embed it, I don't make any money off the video. I just want people to know that this game is not worth buying, okay? And hopefully people refund this game and haven't played it for more than 2 hours. As usual, if you found it useful, leave a comment below, like, favorite, share, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.